Welcome back, everyone. Those of you that have been here on 12-month contracts, I hope you've renewed your energy and spirit here in the last few days before the students hit us full blast. But for those of you who have been gone for the summer, I want to welcome you back. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to pay respect to an individual who we buried about 2 hours ago, someone that we've lost from Western Kentucky University. That's one of our former presidents, Dr. Kelly Thompson. Those of you who have been here for a while know that Dr. Thompson was president from 1955 to 1969. During that time period, helped this institution have an orderly growth, if one can have that, from about 1,600 students to over 11,000. During that time, a number of major buildings and facilities on this campus were constructed, and all under his able leadership. And while doing that, he was able to maintain those kinds of qualities and attributes for which we hold great honor at this institution, in terms of love for our students and a caring attitude that pervades this campus. In my lifetime, all the different people that I've known associated with Western Kentucky University, I've never known anyone who had a greater love for everything about Western Kentucky University. And no matter what was going on, no matter what was happening, being the PR specialist that he was and had such great notoriety for being, he could find positive elements within that. It's an attribute that I admire greatly. But he led this institution through difficult times, through expansion times, and he did it in a way that maintained that spirit of Western that we'd like to talk about, that I believe is here. And he put his heart and soul into this institution and did that for many years. I had a chance to visit with Dr. Thompson on Thursday before he passed away on Saturday, and took him a red towel, and as he passed away, that red towel was on his pillow, because he wouldn't want anything except Western as a part of him as he went through his last days on this earth. So a great comrade has fallen, a long battle with illness, 84 years old, gave about 60 plus to this institution. I'm sure no one will come close to that anywhere in the history of this place. But a great man, and a great man for Western. So if you will join me in a moment of silence for Dr. Kelly Thompson. Thank you very much. Well, again, welcome to all of you. Hope you're rested. I hope you're renewed. At least we have raises to begin this year. We didn't have that last year. So even if you're still a little tired, the raises should give you some boost to begin this year. Speaking of renewed, the Preston Center will have its first year anniversary. I think you probably got flyers regarding that as you came in. That first year anniversary will be tomorrow from about 3 to 5, I think. Isn't that correct? 3 to 5. And I would encourage you to come by and see how those facilities have been kept for a year. I think they are, as among other things, they demonstrate the way the students on our campus take care of these facilities. I think when you walk in, you won't tell much difference in the facilities than the way they were a year ago, and have been used mightily. So I would encourage you to go by tomorrow and spend a little time. Mr. Ray Preston, our primary benefactor for that facility, will be here. And we'll have, I think on the thing it says speech by President Meredith. There will not be a speech. There'll be comments. I'll try to get Mr. Preston to say a couple of words somewhere around 3:30 or 3:45. And it'll be very, very brief. So if you can if you have the opportunity to come by there tomorrow, we would appreciate it. Second thing about the Preston Center is the health fair, the second annual health fair that will be conducted on September the 13th. It's a great bargain, so I hope you'll take advantage of it. It's $70+ bargain in terms of testing for your physical condition, with analysis and a consultation to follow for $10. And it'll be done, it'll be completed in the upstairs of Garrett Center, so it'll be less crowded than it was a year ago, but I hope you'll take advantage of that. But we've got a lot of people in this room who have been here for a long time, and let's just look at hands for just a moment. How many of you all have been here from 0 to 5 years? That's your time period in there. Gosh, we've got a lot of new faces here. 6 to 10 years. How many hands? Okay, still quite a few. 11 to 15 years. Okay, a little fewer. 16 to 20. Fred Murphy just waiting to put his hand up after a while. 21 to 25 years. Wow. Big number, big number. 26 to 30 years. Here, Fred's hand finally went up. Great. How many for over 30 years? Look around at that, folks. There are a number of hands in here with over 30 years. Thank you all very much. It's a testimony to the staying power of some of you. And my congratulations to you. Now let's take a few moments now and meet those who are new to our operation and to this university. And to do that, let me call upon our executive officers of the institution, going in alphabetical order. Dr. Haynes, you're first. I'll take this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to indicate that in academic affairs, we are adding 39 new faculty members this year. I quickly add that they're all replacement faculty. And now it's my pleasure also to introduce the deans, who in turn will introduce the new faculty members. And I would ask, in the interest of time, if you would withhold your applause until the deans have introduced all the faculty in their colleges. My pleasure now to call on Dean Michael Brown of the College of Business Administration.
We have 4 new faculty members in the Department of Marketing. Mr. Patrick Moore, working on his dissertation at Washington State University. He's taught at Albertson College, Washington State University, and the University of Alaska. In the Department of Accounting, we have Dr. Minwoo Lee, received his doctorate from the University of Pittsburgh as a visiting assistant professor in accounting. Dr. Ed Fenton, his degree, doctorate from the University of Kentucky as a certified public accountant, comes to us from Gonzaga State University, will be an associate professor in the department. Dr. Janet Colbert has her degree, doctorate degree from the University of Georgia, as a certified public accountant and certified internal auditor. Comes to us from Auburn University. I would point out that she is not only a professor in the department, but will be the first holder of the Meany Holland Professorship, which is a recognition of 2 gentlemen that came from the old Business University. The alumni there have created a fund and to honor them, and Dr. Colbert is our first holder of the Meany Holland Professorship. We wish you all a productive year.
Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Dean Carl Martray, College of Education, Behavioral Sciences.
Thank you. We're pleased to have 11 new members of the faculty of the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences this year. First is Miss Linda Alexander. Linda? She comes to us from East Carolina University. She is be working with our Library and Media Education program, coordinating Library and Media Education 101. So she will have her hands full with all 45 sections this fall. Dr. Martha Barton. Martha comes to us as an Associate Superintendent of Instruction for the State Department of Education in Alabama. She's a graduate of Auburn University and also has been on the faculty at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Mr. William Bentz. Bill's in the back. He comes to us from Indiana University. He's in the final stages of his dissertation, which he's already received a fellowship award for. Mr. Dadoni Cisse. Gurney comes to us from the University of Alberta. He's in the final stages of his dissertation. His degree is in educational psychology, research, and measurement. Dr. Christy Foley. Christy comes to us from the University of Guam. She's a graduate of the University of Arizona. Right after she signed a contract, we had a major earthquake in Guam, so. Dr. Andrew Getzfield. Dr. Getzfield has not yet arrived. He was detained in Northern Ireland. He will be here Friday. Dr. Stanley Hartzler. Way in the back. Stanley comes to us from Northwest Missouri State. He's a graduate at the University of Texas at Austin. We're able to steal him away from Northwest Missouri. Dr. Jean Hickam. Jean is coming to us from Washington. She's a graduate of the University of San Francisco. We'll be working with our special education program. Dr. Kathleen Matthew. Kathleen comes from the University of South Dakota. Dr. Donald Nims, here. Don is a graduate of Vanderbilt University and has been working in a mental health clinic in specialties in marriage and family therapy. Dr. Karen Westbrooks. Karen is way in the back. Karen comes to us from St. Louis University. Her specialty is marriage and family therapy. She's been in private practice for the last couple of years and an adjunct professor at Washington University and St. Louis University. Welcome to the faculty of the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences and the faculty at Western Kentucky University. We're pleased to have you here.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce Dean David Lee of the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Science.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. It's a pleasure to introduce the 11 new faculty members in the Potter College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. First, in the government department, we have Professor Steve Ballard, who's finished his degree at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and is joining us as an assistant professor. In the music department, we have John Carmichael, who is finishing his degree at Florida State and is coming to us as director of bands. In modern languages and intercultural studies, we have a new department head, Professor Larry Danielson, who has his degree from Indiana University and comes to us from 20 years at the University of Illinois. In the photojournalism program, James Kenny is completing his master's degree at Syracuse. In the Department of English, David Lenore comes to us from Black Hills State College in Spearfish, South Dakota, and his degree is a little closer to home, Auburn University. In the history department, we have Patricia Minter, who is in the last stages of her degree at the University of Virginia. George Musambira in the Department of Communication and Broadcasting is not with us yet, but he is finishing his degree at SUNY Buffalo. In the art department, Brent Oglesby holds an MFA from Penn State University as an assistant professor with us. In anthropology, in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, we're joined by Richard Pace, who has his degree from Florida State University. In the music department, Gerald Pope holds a DMA from Rutgers University. And finally, Sandra Starks, who has an MSW from the University of Louisville, is joining a social work program. And I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome them again to Western Kentucky University.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce Dean Martin Houston of Ogden College of Science, Technology, and Health.
For a moment there, I thought maybe we'd been forgotten. It's my pleasure to introduce from the Department of Mathematics, Dr. David Atkinson. David, he's from the University of Illinois, PhD. I want to add that he is a Western graduate, an honor student from mathematics, an outstanding student from mathematics, an outstanding student from physics and astronomy during his tenure here in 1985. Welcome back. Dr. Patricia Bailey. Dr. Bailey. She's not here. Okay. From the University of Texas at Austin, she comes to us as an associate professor in nursing. Mr. John Darnell, John is right here. From the University of Alabama at Birmingham, he's assistant professor in the Department of Engineering and Technology. Dr. David Keeling comes to us from the University of Oregon as assistant professor in geography and geology. Miss Deborah Lively, Western Kentucky University, MS. She's an instructor in biology, has taught with us for several years, and now is a full-time faculty member. Ms. Elizabeth McClellan. Elizabeth, did you make it? She is arrived late, so maybe she didn't make it here. She's an ABD from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. She's an instructor in the Department of Geography and Geology. Dr. Douglas McElroy, he comes to us from the University of Maine as an assistant professor in the Department of Biology. It's my pleasure to also introduce Dr. Charles Magruder III. Dr. Magruder is the new department head of physics and astronomy, received his PhD from the University of Heidelberg. Dr. Pat Miners, is Pat here? She's in the back right there. Comes to us from Georgia State University as an assistant professor in public health. Ms. Deborah Sears, right here, from the University of Louisville. She is now presently an instructor in the Department of Allied Health. Lastly, but not least, is Mr. John White. John, ABD, right back here. From the University of Alabama at Birmingham, an instructor also in the Department of Public Health. Welcome you to Western Kentucky University and to Ogden College.
And we have one new addition to the library faculty, and it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Michael Bender, Dean of Libraries.
Thank you. Our new addition is the new interlibrary loan librarian, Ralph Golub. And Ralph must be busy working in the library on interlibrary loans. Ralph has master's degrees both in music and in library and information science. We welcome him to Western and to University Libraries.
Let's give one more round of applause to our new faculty members. Thank you very much.
Dr. James Heck, Executive Assistant to the President, would announce the President's here.
Thank you, President Meredith. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce two new individuals to the President's area. First, Mr. Mark Hardaway. Mark is our new volleyball coach. He has been assistant coach at nationally ranked Bowling Green State for the past 2 seasons. He holds a bachelor's degree of science from Missouri Southern, and Mr. Hardaway is a native of Cincinnati. Also, Ms. Evelyn Thompson is our new assistant women's basketball coach. Ms. Thompson is a former standout athlete at Auburn, where she got her degree, and has been an assistant coach at Arizona State University for the past 3 years. Ms. Thompson is a native of LaGrange, Georgia. Please join with me in welcoming these two individuals to Western.
Next, Dr. James Ramsey, Vice President for Finance Administration. You don't have any. We just wanted to make that point. That's what he told me to do. No, I'm just kidding. Dr. Jerry Wilder from Student Affairs.
I would like to introduce 3 new staff members to the division. First, Fred Gibson. Fred, would you stand? Fred is the new assistant manager of the Preston Center. And seated next to him is Cheryl Fowler. Cheryl is the fitness instructor at Preston Center. We also have with us Mike Hills. Mike is a new financial aid counselor in the Office of Student Financial Assistance. I would mention that we have several new staff members in the Department of Residence Life who could not be with us at this time due to conflicting responsibilities. As we meet, they're out all over campus working and interacting with approximately 760 new students at Western who are participating in the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to all of you. I hope that you picked up on the quality of those people who have just been introduced. 30 out of 39, or about 77%, either have their doctorates or ABD, and by ABD they're on schedule. There are 22 of them hold a doctorate, and then there are 8 more that are on schedule to finish their doctorates. And I think as you heard the kind of institutions from which they're coming, that the quality of our faculty continues to move upward. And I'm very proud of the job that the department heads are doing, the deans are doing, and Vice President Haynes as new faculty are hired. The quality is also evident in the other hires that you've heard as well. One other individual I want to introduce to you, as you'll recall, back in January, February, the board approved a new division for Western called the Vice President for Institutional Advancement, or that position to head up that new division. And that will be primarily a division that will be our private fundraising arm for this institution. Incorporated within that division will be university relations, development, alumni affairs, and the Institute for Economic Development. We went through a long, laborious search and finally have a gentleman that'll be on board September 1st, but he's in for this week as we get a little free work out of him. But I'd like for you to meet Robert Rutledge. Robert, why would you stand? This comes to us as the from previous position of being the president and executive director of the Texas A&M Foundation. He's bringing a wealth of experience to us that will allow us to move forward in a much more rapid fashion than we had anticipated, particularly with the creation of the new Western Kentucky University Foundation that was approved by the board and has now been finalized with all of the various legal entities that it must go through. So would you help me welcome Bob Rutledge, please, Charles? Let me now run through, as I usually do with you, a list of items that I think will be of interest to you to kind of bring you up to date as you enter this school year on a number of items on campus and kind of make sure that you're caught up after having maybe been away for a few months this summer. A lot of new students are now on campus. The sororities moved in over the weekend, and about 750 to 800 students came roaring in yesterday, and it was a great sight on campus. I want to encourage you to move down through these residence halls as you're moving back and forth between your offices and just grab one of these students and ask them who they are and where they're from and talk to them for a moment. Don't feel uncomfortable doing that. These students love that. They don't know a soul. And so they will appreciate you doing that for them. We have a new plan underway this year, a new program underway, and I want to compliment Student Life for developing this. It's called the Master Plan. Had an opening session in here last night, and they were all into this room, and they've got them in assigned seating so they meet the right people. But for 4 days, new students to Western, first-time students to Western, could sign up for a program that would take them through all kinds of learning experiences from how to study to whatever, but mainly incorporated within that time frame will be opportunities to get to know all the other incoming first-time freshmen and transfer students. The intent is by next Monday when we start classes, these people that have come to us from all over the country and from all kinds of sized towns and little villages will know hundreds of people by the time they go to their first class. Instead of just showing up, moving in, setting their panic till the weekend's over and suddenly go to your first class and you don't know anyone and you don't have a clue what's going on. And we think it is a wonderful program because the cheapest recruiting we can do is to retain students. And if we lose them because they're not working hard enough and they haven't tried, that's one thing. But when we lose them for all those other reasons they go home, then we have lost. And I want to compliment Student Life, Dr. Wilder, for putting this program together. Dave Parrott and his crew constructed this, and we think it's going to be an exciting new addition to the institution. Remember that this year's freshman class was born in 1975. It's always shocking to me every time I write that down each year, but they were just born in 1975. So I want you to think about the things that you could talk about that they don't have a clue about. And it's all those things that our parents did, and they talked about things, and we went, yeah, Great Depression, you know. Well, now we can talk about all kinds of things, and these kids won't have a clue unless they've read it in a history book someplace. So kind of be mindful of that as you try to talk them through things, but they're brand new. We think enrollment's probably going to be down some. We don't know how much. This has really been strange for me, and I bet it's driving Frida Eggleton and Cheryl Chambliss nuts. It seems to fluctuate from week to week. We don't know. One minute we think we're going to be devastated. Next week it's back up here. Then the new freshmen from Kentucky that we've been working so hard on, all of a sudden we got more of those than we've had in the past. And it's just running up and down. So we're just waiting anxiously to see what happens on Monday when we start getting some counts. But we don't know right now, except we're pretty sure we'll be down, but we don't know how much. So hang on to that a little bit. If you know any others that haven't decided yet, call them tonight. Quality of our students, some outstanding. Cheryl Chambliss, Dr. Cheryl Chambliss, handed me a little note a while ago that said we have 50 high school valedictorians in this class coming in. We've got, of course, our presidential scholars, a group of those, and they all have 3.9 plus and 31 ACT plus scores, or they can't be in that group. So we've got a good group of freshmen coming in. We had a last-minute recruit that several people worked on. Luther worked on hard, young lady with a 32 ACT that switched over to us. So we've had a lot of people working very hard to get the kinds of students that you want to have in your classes. And I think you're going to continue to see improvement there. Another change we've had on campus is a change in our travel policy, travel services. Not policy, but travel services. We've been trying to find every way possible to save money. And what we've been doing is everyone's been making their own reservations with travel agencies everywhere every time they take an airplane ride or a hotel or a car. And then those travel agencies get all the profit from that. And so we've been working on a program, put it together. Dr. Ramsey and his shop put it out for bid. And we've tried to go to one travel agency, and then they would give us back part of the profit. And it's the way they could get all of our business. That went out on the fair market, the competitive bid. Quality Travel in town got it. We'll have a travel agent, someone that you already know, Sue Pillow, that you'll call her office and make your reservations now. If you want to be reimbursed, you have to go through Sue to make your reservations. But we'll get back, we think, back into the general fund maybe as much as $35,000 to $40,000 that we've not been getting in the past, simply because we get back part of it now in this bid process. And we're going to try to continue to find ways to save money. But that's effective now. So your department heads are aware of it, and there's a memo out there, so be sure and follow that process. You've seen, or you will see, a notice in your departments where we're trying to gather an inventory of all the reports that are filed on this campus in a year's time. We're being asked to do more with fewer people. The reports just continue to go up. I have yet to receive a letter from anyone that says, don't file this report anymore, we don't want it anymore. But I get plenty of letters just through our office. I can imagine what you get in yours that says, here's a new report, we need this new information, start filing this on an annual basis or quarterly basis. And what we're trying to do is get an accurate inventory of all existing reports on this campus. Then we're going to do a hardcore analysis, and unless we have to file a report, we're going to quit doing it. We're just going to quit doing it. And if it won't cost us money because someone will cut us off now because we haven't seen a report or something along that line, we're going to cut out as many reports as we can. I don't know how many that is until we get the inventory done. So if someone asks you to please give them the information, participate in that. I hate to file a report in order to find out about reports, to get rid of reports, but it seems to be the only way we can get to this. So if you'll be patient with us, maybe I think it'll benefit us all in the long run. Computers for faculty, that's moving along rapidly. Going by college alphabetically by department, and they'll get to you pretty soon if they're not there already. How many already have them in their areas? Okay, hands dotted various places. Dr. Chuck Anderson, Margaret Klein seem to be the two that are bearing the brunt of making sure that these get out across campus. Where's Chuck? Maybe hiding on this question. How long, Chuck, before we think we'll have them out?
We should have all of the
Okay.
in all the colleges except the College of Education, and that's a special order. And we're hopeful that in September we'll have those.
Great. And they have special orders in their place because they got $1.5 million, $1.7 million, $1.2 million, $2 million. Okay, bid's going up. $2 million worth of instructional software as a gift, as you recall, from Johnston Learning Corporation and the YCAT Corporation. And we had to buy certain kinds of computers to run $2 million worth of free software. Linda Johnson, Dr. Linda Johnson, are you in here, Linda? Dr. Linda Johnson headed up the software committee on this, I understand, and Margaret Klein, the hardware committee, and we've got a computing committee that we want to introduce all of those that work very hard on it. But this is coming, and somewhere in the neighborhood of a year and a half or so, where our plan is to be totally networked on this campus. And totally networked means from all the student dorm rooms or residence hall rooms, into your office, into the library, everywhere. Chuck, if I overstate this, just panic a little bit over there. But we're going to be totally networked on this campus, and that's a goal that we've had. We've had a plan drawn up a few years ago. We've been following that plan, and that will be in place. Our students now have the most access to computers of any institution in this state, and you'll be networked in with them within a short period of time. So it's moving forward, and I'm very pleased with the work of those committees, and thank them very, very much for that. Construction, Potter Hall next door is coming along nicely. If you haven't seen that, walk over there and look at it. It should be finished by February, sometime in February. The Institute for Economic Development out on Nashville Road, if you haven't been by that lately, you ought to drive out and look at it. Used to be a Kroger and a Walmart, and you can't tell that anymore. We had a design that was to eliminate any remembrance of Walmart and Kroger. And we think that that has occurred, and I hope that you'll think that too when you drive by there. But that'll house our Institute for Economic Development. As you recall, all of that renovation is being paid for, as is Potter, from the state. Science and Technology Hall is out on bid now and should be underway soon. I have no idea where we're going to move some of you when that renovation starts into that building. It's not really a renovation, it's a repair, I guess, more than anything in it, Kimball. Trying to get it shored back up to some degree and the mechanical part fixed, but that's out on bid now. Dr. Heck is the space czar on campus, so he'll figure out where we can have those classes during that construction time. The Ag Expo Center, changing out the heating system in that, should be a dramatic savings for us. It was oil-resistant heat, and that's all just about dead. We think we can save about $40,000 a year on the state-funded changing out of the heating process and move to a new source. Our cupola on top of Cherry Hall should be back up in 2 weeks. As you remember, it twisted last, is that this summer or spring? Okay, you don't know about that, then those of you who've been gone. We walked out one morning and the cupola on top was turned, and pretty dangerous. We roped off Cherry Hall and got a massive crane in here that cost more than I made the first year that I taught, and brought the cupola down. It's been in Louisville ever since, being reworked. That was stuck to the top of Cherry Hall with wood down inside the metal. And you can imagine Cherry Hall was built back in the 20s, and that same wood was there. There wasn't much left. Most of it had rotted away, and they handed me one of the big 2x4s that was in the middle of it, and it was like balsa wood, so there's just nothing left. And it's a wonder it hadn't, I guess, just come right off of there. But that'll be back up in a couple of weeks. Trash chutes are been installed in several of the residence halls, and also laundries. We didn't have any laundries here at all in our residence halls, and we have them in every residence hall now. And we think that's another way to keep students here on weekends. Leadership for the 90s. Leadership for the 90s, we have that underway now. I had a pilot program last year that went with most people on campus, and it worked pretty well except for the one on AIDS. Those of you who came to that one know that that one didn't go well at all, and we almost canceled the program after that one, but we've recovered, and it's been put together again, and we think Leadership for the 90s is going to be excellent. The whole purpose of Leadership for the 90s is to give those an opportunity who are responsible for other people in leadership positions on this campus, give them the opportunity to improve their skills of leadership. And the things they'll be going through will be interpersonal skills, communication skills, evaluation skills, a whole list of things, sexual harassment on down the road. And we think it'll be very beneficial. It's mandatory. It meets every third Thursday of every month except for 2 months for 2 hours. And there'll be makeup sessions for those who can't go, but it's important. It's critical. Too many people get into leadership positions and have never been there before, and they don't have a clue what to do. And they need assistance in being the best leaders that they can be. How many of you have had your big red card made? Great, great. I got in line yesterday, a 10-minute wait. They tell me if I wait much longer, it's going to be a long wait. So if you haven't done it, I believe I'd get down there before all the students get back. We think that's going to be a great program for us and will work very well. Ideas for Efficiency has been renewed. Our committee died. I didn't know it had died. And I started wondering why we didn't get Ideas for Efficiency suggestions coming up, and the committee had died. So we have a new chair, Judy Bird, and those of you who know Judy Bird in the registrar's office, it will not die under Judy Bird. She'll keep it alive in a strong fashion. But we already have the first 3 going into this year. It's a $50 reward if you give us an idea that will make this place run more efficiently. So if you've got some ideas, put them down and let's move forward. Personnel manuals, been concerned that everyone didn't have access to personnel manuals on this campus. And we've got them everywhere now. Every department has full personnel manual. They're in Garrett, they're in the Downing Center, they're in the libraries, they're in Weatherby. If you want to get the personnel manual, they're everywhere. Every department has them now, so that should be accessible to you. University Benefits Committee met long and hard for several months last year. We asked, it used to be the Insurance Committee, and then we made a Benefits Committee, and we asked them to look at all the benefits that are there for our employees and to evaluate them and to see if some things we shouldn't be doing anymore, if there are things we should be expanding or whatever. And they've done an excellent job. We've been through the list. There are some things that have already been endorsed now by the executive officers of the institution. There are several others that were sent back for further study or more data or whatever. And before too long, we'll send you a summary sheet showing you all the different changes in the benefits on this campus. Nothing's been lost. There have been some that have been enhanced and expanded. New family leave policy has been passed. It's now a part of our personnel manual. All of those things have been incorporated, so that I hope you'll take a chance to look at those changes, and I think you'll like what you see. Sponsored programs. I really want to congratulate all of you in this room who are involved in any way at all in acquiring extramural funds for this institution. We came in here 5 years ago, you were producing almost $3 million a year in extramural funds, well below the capacity of this institution. And we reinstituted the policy of sending back 1/2 of the overhead money back to the college to where the grant originated. And you responded dramatically to that, which means we're all good old solid Americans. All we need is a little monetary incentive and we'll move forward, and we're all built that way. But if that policy went into effect this past year, extramural dollars went up to $10 million. We finally moved over that $10 million mark. So Betty Seitz, I want to thank you for your work on that. Where are you, Betty? So I walked in with you, so I know you're here. And she's worked, there she is back here. But thank you very much for your work on that with that massive staff that you have. And for all of you who have submitted all those grants, an amazing success rate on grants submitted and grants approved. We'll have a final report out shortly, but it was something like 213 out of 230, Betty, or something like that. It was just a tremendous success rate, so I congratulate you on that. We had a consultant in who looked at sponsored programs and said, look, this institution is a long way from its capacity, and you ought to be doing more, but you're going to have to invest some money in order to do more. So we negotiated back and forth with Dr. Haynes and myself and the deans, and we worked out a plan. We're now, instead of 50-50 split, we're going to take 40% into the institution for overhead, which is what that's designed for. 40% will go back into the college, and the middle 20% will go into funding the programs to expand what we're doing in extramural, outside dollar receiving process. And I think you're going to see that'll be a very closely scrutinized area by my office, and I think you're going to see some very positive results out of that. You're going to see some support for new people to get into extramural fund seeking that has not been there previously that should have been. Center for Teaching and Learning, Ed Counts and his group have been doing a job. They even ran some programs this summer And I went to one of those and found it to be very, very positive and interesting. So I appreciate the work that they're doing. SACS, Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. Most of you in this room have been involved in that in one way or another in helping us get reaccredited by SACS. And we're pretty far down the road now. I have a draft on my desk, and I've read Joe Glazer. Where's Joe? Joe in here? Well, when you know it, Joe will call your name, and that's the day you're not here. Joe Glazer's been heading up our SACS operation, along with Livingston Alexander, who's been overseeing the whole operation, and has just done an outstanding job with their committee. I have that draft on my desk. I've read about a third of the way through it, and they've asked us for responses, and we'll have a large number of responses, I'm sure, to that, just to make sure that the best picture is portrayed of this institution. We'll put out a faculty staff memo before too awful long showing you a lot of the people who have been doing so much of the work. I have a list here, but I don't think I'll read through all of those today, but we'll share that in the form of a memo to you. Western 21. This fall, we will begin a review process on the progress that's been made on Western 21. We'll get that cranked up. There will be an assessment made department by department across this campus to see what that department has done about various aspects of Western 21. So if you haven't read Western 21 lately, let me encourage you to pull it back out to make sure your department is on target with Western 21. And when the survey comes around, that you'll be able to address that in a positive way. Specific plans will be developed as a result of that survey. We'll see where we are, what's been done, what hasn't been done, and then we'll put some action plans in place to make sure that the rest of Western 21 is followed through and not left resting on the side. In addition to academic program reviews, a number of comprehensive reviews have been completed by outside consultants. Some of you may not know about those reviews, but let me just tell you which ones have been done so far, have been completed. And they were all called for in Western 21. Financial aid has been reviewed, student health service, alumni affairs, university relations, sponsored programs area, student activities and organizations, public safety, career services, purchasing, facilities management, institutional research, and in about 2 weeks, the whole human resources area. The rule we have on consultants coming in is they can't know anyone in the area where they're doing consulting. And so what we're looking for are candid, straight-up reviews that will give us the most complete story possible, complete with recommendations that we can then follow to make us more efficient, to make us more effective and better. But more surveys are coming, more consultants are coming till we get them all completed. We've continued on our push to upgrade the quality of our operations, to upgrade the quality of our faculty, and you've seen some of that this time with those who are here, and also to upgrade the quality of our graduates. General education is now, new general education is now a reality. Accreditation has, as we pursue our goal of trying to be 100% accredited, we have come closer to that goal again this summer, with notification from 2 different areas that they've become accredited. And that makes us, Livingston, I don't know the exact number, 19 or 20 out of the 23 now as we continue to move forward. And we've had that goal for some time, and we're now closing in on that goal pretty effectively. The quality of our student body I'm very pleased with, and we will continue to try to improve that. We've tried everything possible to stay the course for quality, even with the budget cuts. And that has not been easy. It's not been easy for you. It's not been easy for those on the budget committee who had to work so hard to do this. But we have continued to protect the classroom, even in the face of these budget cuts. And I'll talk in more detail in a moment about the budget cuts and the extent of those. That's not to say that there's enough money in your budgets in your department. But it is to say that we've been able to protect what money is there for your use. I continue to hear outstanding reports regarding our graduates. And I hope you're hearing the same thing. I hope they're not just telling the president, but not only from the graduates themselves who tell us exactly how competitive they are, and they are competitive. In all the different fields in which they're entering, they are extraordinarily competitive. And I keep hearing it from employers, people from graduate schools, that talk about how delighted they are to get Western graduates because they're prepared, they're ready, And that means you're doing your job, and you need to be very, very proud of that and brag about it wherever you go as you recruit more students. And before long, the whole outcomes assessment process will be a reality in full force. And with that, Western's quality will become even better known, because that will simply give us the opportunity, data-wise, to demonstrate that quality as we compare ourselves to others. And I'm comfortable with how we can compare. Quality Assurance Program. Some of you read about that this summer. The Board of Regents adopted that in July. And it simply says to the world that we guarantee the quality of our teacher education graduates at Western Kentucky University. They're guaranteed. There's no limits. It's a quality, it's a warranty on them. And if there are problems, then you send them back and we fix it for free. And I hope you'll read that policy closely for this reason. It takes the entire backing of the entire institution to back it up. Because the teacher education, the College of Teacher Education, only prepares them for the last part of their whole preparation. All of us have a responsibility for the rest of their training. So if they don't know their history or they don't know their math or whatever, then that's not the College of Education's responsibility. It falls back up to the department. So it takes all of us to back this. But I have such confidence in the quality of the graduates we're putting out in areas all across this institution, and particularly in teacher education, that the board felt comfortable in putting forth this guarantee. In our athletic area, their academic success there continues to roll forward. Again, we led the entire Sun Belt Conference in the number of student athletes on the all-academic team. And that has been consistent with Western Kentucky University year after year after year, and that occurred this past year. There's a commitment among our coaches, and Dixie Mahurin, who heads up our staff down there and being of assistance to our athletes. There's a tremendous commitment there that's paying off. I want to compliment you on the progress that you have made in the hiring of minorities at Western. We've been on a path to increase our minority participation on this campus, and we were going to increase it only with quality individuals. And if you look at those that have come in the last several years, extraordinarily high quality. I'm extremely proud. We got here 5 years ago, there were 8 minority faculty on this campus. This fall there'll be 21. And that's due to the hard work of all of you who are out here, because it takes everyone in this room to recruit them and also to make sure that they feel comfortable coming to Western Kentucky University and being here. So I want to compliment you on that. We still have a way to go in the attraction of African American students from Kentucky to Western. Now I center that specifically because the Council on Higher Education keeps judging our progress in all of these areas, and we're in good shape in all of the areas except for that one area. And they only let us count African American students from Kentucky in the report. Of course, we get a lot of students from Nashville and Indiana and every place else, but we can't count those, which means we've got to make an extraordinary effort for African American students from Kentucky. And that's important for us to have that breadth of representation on our campus, but it's also important because a state law passed in 1992 said that no institution of higher learning can seek or get a new academic program until they have met the goals in every area. Now there's one loophole that says if you're making substantial progress, then you can get a 1-year waiver. And we've been making substantial progress. And our task force on the recruitment and retention of minority students that met during this past year and brought forth a plan has put some excellent things in place. And those have been funded and they are in place for this year. So I think we'll see some progress. But we need your help in order to accomplish that. So I ask for that help. Let's talk for just a minute as we work toward wrapping it up about dollars and budgets, a topic that's been so much on our mind for the last 2 or 3 years. Since 1986-87 school year, Western Kentucky University has lost $7.9 million in state funding. Now think about that, $7.9 million. Just since 91-92, less than 2 years now, it'll be 2 years this October, we've lost $6.4 million from state funding. And yet we're still moving forward. $6.4 million. We were able to give raises this year, but it's important for you to know, and I know most of you do, that the new money we got from the state this year totaled $475,000. Now we have a budget of $110 million. And the new money from the state was $475,000. We gave raises this year worth $2.4 million. That's a lot of restructuring within the institution. And I want to say before you that the budget committee of this institution, representative of all areas of this institution, has done an outstanding job. I cannot even begin to tell you the number of hours they have put in on this project trying to find those dollars. Because as we were building the budget for this year with those raises, and we were coming home those March evenings, and we really felt good about it, we were finally putting the budget to bed, and we got the letter from the governor that said, by the way, things aren't looking very good for next year, and take 2% out of the 93-94 budget, which for us was $936,500 that we had to go back in then and find. And that meant people, it meant positions, it meant a lot of things. Some hard decisions were made, but the money was found and it was not budgeted into this year. In July, we got a letter from the governor that said, by the way, you need to be prepared for another cut. And since we've already got you putting aside 2%, what we want to hear from you are some plans regarding a total of a 4% cut, a 6% cut, and an 8% cut. If we got 8%, for us, that meant $4 million. Almost $4 million. If you discounted the two we already had out, it meant almost $3 million that we have to find somewhere. Well, we've been on pins and needles with that ever since. And finally, on August the 10th, because he told us he would tell us in August how much it would be. August the 10th, the governor summoned the presidents to his office. And so we went in hoping, against hope, that we would be spared in some way. And the governor, with the legislative leadership seated all around him, made a statement that he felt like higher education had done its part. The cuts had been burdensome on higher education, and they had done their part, and they were not going to cut us anymore. And we were going to lose that 2% that we'd already set aside, the $936,500, but no more. They weren't going to cut us anymore. Well, to see a bunch of reserve presidents sit there and hold it in and not go yes or whatever in front of the governor was tough. But the fact is, what we saw was a turnaround in attitude, we think, about higher education in the state. We have been whipped, and we've been the ones that everyone's pointed to. We've been kicked around every way possible. And everyone has been working very, very hard to send the message to the governor, to the legislative leadership, this is a mistake. This is the best investment you have as higher education in the state of Kentucky. Don't do this anymore. Our students did it under the leadership of Joe Raines. Many of you were involved in doing some things, and they listened. Now that may change next week, but for right now, there are no more cuts coming to higher education, and that's a major relief. I never thought I would stand in front of any group and talk about how excited I was to only get a $1 million cut, but that's exactly our position. We've lost $936,000, but we're not going to lose any more, and that's great news, and I hope that you'll share that with other people, that this is a major, major turnaround. Two or three other things. There was an article in the paper not long ago that was a little misleading, and if some of you were confused about it, let me try to help out a little bit. It talked about how much we had underspent last year's budget and led one to believe that there was all this money left over now that somebody could just play with. I could pretty well guess who was going to play with that. But the fact of the matter is that's not the case at all. We are going to come in under budget. The final year-end financial statement is being worked on now. And we will come in under budget. And that will produce a year-end fund balance. But it won't be anything at all like what you read about in the paper. What was in the paper included all of our grant money that hadn't been spent yet. Well, all that's encumbered. It's going to a particular place. And it included all those millions of dollars within that. It included the reserve for auxiliaries. It included all kinds of things like that that shouldn't have been looked at in that particular way, but no one knew the difference in writing that particular story. We'll have a fund balance this year. And by the way, the auxiliary reserve, thank goodness they have it, because is John Osborne in here? He may be out working on the air conditioners. They've already had one air conditioner totally gone, and is the other one gone? 2 major air conditioners are gone, so his reserve is 2. He's going to go for 2 air conditioners, so it's a good thing he ended up with a reserve this past year. Several of the kids mentioned it to me last night, as a matter of fact, that the air conditioning was gone. So we'd get right on that. But we'll have a positive fund balance, and question comes up, how could you have a fund balance in a year of budget cuts? Let me tell you how. Several ways. One, enrollment came in last fall higher than we thought it was going to. We were down 17 students last fall. We thought we'd be down at least a couple hundred. We don't think we'll be fooled this fall. We think we will be down those numbers. But we didn't spend that money. We put it aside and locked it up. The other thing that happened was that we had some unexpected savings. We put in a TVA electricity saving plan that was supposed to produce X number of dollars. It produced more than that. And it was a pleasant surprise, a great surprise, but it was good to have. Also, we had savings on insurance because mid-year came and there was no increase in insurance, as you recall. And then the other thing that happened was, and I want to compliment you on this, that across this campus you are now staying in budget. When I came here 5 years ago, across this campus, you were out of budget on an average of 3%. At that time, we had a budget of $85 to $90 million, and you were out of budget approximately an average of 3%. So that any fund balance that accrued had to be used to pay the bills for being over budget all across campus. And we ask you to start being more diligent in looking after your budgets and staying in budget. And you have responded tremendously. And it was more difficult than that because we started pushing more things to your responsibility down in those budgets. Used to, you didn't have to worry about telephone and printing and all that. That was taken care of in some mystical place somewhere. And we gave it back to you and said, it's your responsibility. You be responsible for it. And you were. And you're in budget. And by being in budget, it means that you don't have to attack fund balance. We don't have to take institutional contingency and try to pay off overspending in different areas. The other thing that happens is that there were a number of areas that came in below budget. They just pulled their belts up tighter and were determined to come in under budget. And that produced extra money as well. So for all of you who have been so diligent in keeping these budgets straight, I appreciate it. It's given us a fund balance. Now, what in the world are we going to do with any fund balance that comes out? Well, there's a number of things we have planned. One of those will be to take some money and put into something that you've been able to apply for before, but there wasn't much money in it this past year. Used to be a fund called the President's Unrestricted Development Fund. And you all submitted proposals, and you could get up to how much on those, Bob? $2,000. Used to be down in the business vice president's office, and I moved it up to the academic vice president's office. And you could submit proposals for those. We used to have about $45,000 a year in that, and those kinds of things. Well, the way we had that $45,000 is those, remember all the discussion about agency funds? The way we could get that money was through the use of our agency funds. Well, they all went away. So there was no money left then to put into that fund. So what we are going to do with part of the fund balance is refund that program at a higher level than it was before even. And you'll get some details about that as we send out a memo, and you'll have more money to submit proposals for than you've ever had before in those areas. Well, let me wrap it up. I hope that this year we can spend a year working together. I hope that there will be a new cooperative spirit on this campus. You know, all this I spent time with Kelly Thompson the last 2 weeks, and then all the stuff at his funeral and so forth has caused me to go back and rethink what we ought to be about at Western and what the spirit ought to be about at Western. And I picked up Lowell Harrison's book the other night at home and just kind of rocked back and read about, again, some of our history and some of those kinds of things that were so important for Western Kentucky University over the years. And all of it involved working together, a cooperative spirit. I want to enhance communication this year. We tried to do that with these memos to faculty and staff from me, telling you exactly what's up so you don't have to hear it third hand and fourth hand. We're going to do more of that this year. I will have regular breakfast sessions all through the year where we'll select faculty at random. We'll probably let a computer do it. They do everything else. We'll let them pick out faculty at random. And if you'd like to come, then we'll come at 7 in the morning and stay for an hour, and I'll listen. And you can ask anything that you want to ask, and we'll get it covered. We're going to enhance communication on this campus in other ways as well that we'll talk about as we move forward. I'd like to somehow, and this is hard to do on a college campus, I'd like to somehow do away with the mentality of we and they, us and them. They're on that side, we're on this side. If we're not in this together, we can't do it right. We cannot be successful. So somehow this year, I want us to look for the good in each other, look for the good in our students, even though sometimes we have to struggle in some of our classes. But let's look for the good in each other. Let's find ways to cooperate and work together. Let's talk about the advantages and the pluses of this place. Last night we had all those freshmen in here, and they had Coach Steve Small speak, a motivational speak. Have you ever heard Coach Steve Small speak? You know what I'm talking about. But one of the things he asked the freshmen to do last night was take advantage of the advantages. And that's what I hope we'll do. We've got an incredible university here. And all you have to do is just be away from here for a little while and you see that. The people who are here, the kinds of students we get. You know, I talk to presidents at other institutions and all the problems they're having with students, and they're not the problems we're having at all. The kinds of facilities that we have here, we have a beautiful, beautiful campus located in a great town and a great state. We just have so many pluses working for us. And I'd like for us to focus on that this year. Focus on the pluses and the advantages. And let's work together to make sure that this is a great year. I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate even more what you're going to do this year. We have a wonderful opportunity in front of us, and I know we're all up for it. Now, I know we have a reception out behind here. They decided to move it inside instead of outside this year. I don't have any idea why. But I hope you'll take time to visit with your colleagues and say hello to some of our new faculty and employees and greet them. And have a great year. Thank you for being here.